this is it's easy to explain what is not an ecopreneurship than to define what is ecopreneurship. So greenwashing is definitely not an ecopreneurship model, right? So we can, these are some of the symptoms of greenwashing, like selective disclosure. I mean, when an automobile player tells that they are fuel efficient, but at the same time, they use environmentally destructive mining practices to make their lithium ion battery, then that's a selective disclosure. They tell only about their good things, right? Symbolic actions. When a after like oil company, which is like regularly spilling the oil in the ocean, as part of their CSR program, they give down dishwash to clean fish or clean the dishwashing soap to the fishing community. That's a symbolic action. Then hidden trade-offs, like recently Starbucks replaced their straws with a lid, which avoids usage of straws. Again, this lid uses more plastic than the straw. So these are some like symptoms of greenwashing. Then lack of proof. Like when somebody says eco-friendly or sustainable, what is the proof in it? It's not available anywhere in their website. Why they are sustainable, and like vagueness. They use meaningless labels and overinflated phrases. That's interesting. Somebody like increase their sourcing from sustainably sourcing from 2% to 3%. They could claim easily they have increased their sustainable sourcing 50%, right? So when they increase to 1% increase from 2% to 3%, that's a 50% increase in their sustainable sourcing. That's what inflationary or overinflated phrases mean. And suggestive imagery. You could see Shell's ad here. Just a second. Yeah, looks like they are emitting fragrance and like I don't know, like the image looks like the flowers, all those things are coming out of it. And in another ad, they are having, sorry, I'll just minimize this. They're having green smokes coming out of their like their fossil fuel manufacturing plants, right? So this is another this misrepresentation of their like production processes, right? Now another example, like Volkswagen, they like advertise drive cleaner, but unfortunately they were caught by the public and the EcoWatch like entities that they're lying. Actually, they are not cleaner enough, and that's why people put their own advertisements, similar advertisements saying we are sorry that we got caught, or drive cleaner, or just pretend to. So what this showing is many countries there is conscious efforts by the public and the many entities to watchdog this greenwashing advertisements and marketing, which we don't have, I think, because that's why Adani Power can easily claim and advertise. They are the leading solar energy player. Even they are replacing, just like how they are doing the fossil fuels, they are doing the solar energy farms also, right? So whether can we call Adani solar electric or solar power generating plants ecopreneurship? I'm not sure, because they are displacing a lot of people just like any other fossil fuel manufacturing, just like and also when they claim they will be increasing their capacity 25 gigawatt by 2025. At the same time, they have added 8 new coal mines in last 2 years, and they are doubling their coal-fired power capacity, not only in India alone, Australia, everywhere in the world. Yeah. So I just covered these greenwashing examples just to tell you, let's not bog down or just let's not be trapped in these advertisements, right? So there are some other green terms that we generally use vaguely. So I just want to begin with saying that let's be very conscious of, for any ecopreneur or whoever talks about ecopreneurship, let's be very conscious of the words that we are using, right? So these are some other terms we generally use: green economy, sustainable development, climate smart agriculture, circular economy, right? So just let's go into the definition of green economy. So looks like there is already a green economy around the world. Like UNEP in 2011 itself has proposed this. And as the major objective is economic crisis, ecological crisis, and alleviate poverty. And with low carbon production processes, resource efficiency, and innovation is the key. So they have clubbed two terms. Looks like two terms which were supposedly opposite in meaning earlier together, like green growth. So green growth strategy, the miles or major crux of the green growth strategy is the innovation. Like innovation is the key. Like even nowadays, Bill Gates, everybody is vouching for innovations around growth strategy, right? And also another strategy is giving the nature a price, whatever monetize the natural capital that is available, so that is also accounted even in the books of accounts. Let's accommodate the environment, societal aspects as well. These are the like recent changes that has come into the economy. Like while these are making some reformist changes, we are just like this cartoon says, right? Ultimately, this is part of the larger capitalist economy, which whose only objective is to increase the shareholder wealth maximization, right? Like even those who are studied MBA here may be knowing, right? In every subject in their MBA course, whether it's marketing, finance, or anything, will start with the like first line or the objective. What is the objective of a business? Shareholder wealth maximization. That's the objective, right? So even when we say triple bottom line or any other like newer concepts into this particular economy, it follows again the capitalist norms of economy only. That's what it looks like. Green economy, whether it's green economy is green capitalism. Again, these are some of the views that I am putting forward. Obviously, we could discuss around this towards the end. And why I'm like, why we are like telling this looks like an oxymoron, bundling together economic growth and preservation of nature. Whether it will work, it's a debatable problem. I'm not saying it will not work. It will definitely work, but like claiming there is eco-friendliness and focusing on growth, still focusing on growth, using the environmental terminologies to cover up the existing businesses is the problem here, right? Again, when there was a book released in Rome called Limit to Growth, there was concerns around the world. Are is the current economic system equitable, environmentally sustainable? All those questions were arising. Slowly, when we coin these terminologies like green economy, all of a sudden that discussions are stopped, and we are believing again these big business players will regain the faith in the capitalism and regain the faith in the sustainable development. That's the image that we are getting, right? So slowly liberalization, deregulation, even for the solar or renewable energy companies or any other kind of sustainable businesses also, there is not much regularization happening, right? Also, this particular idea of green economy that's there around the world is not countering any large scale mining practices around the world. For example, when we say we are supporting electric vehicles, parallelly, lot of environmentally destructing mining is happening in the other part of the world. When we are vouching for biofuels, like palm oil, including palm oil, in Indonesia, by 2030, around 75% of the rainforests are going to be destroyed. So it's very clear that when we say green capitalism or green economy, it's going to happen only in one part of the world at the cost of some other part of the world, right? So that's very clear from the recent examples. That's why we need to, again, another example. So there is some alliance called Climate Smart Agriculture, like Global Alliance for Climate Smart Agriculture. Around 60% of the private players in that Climate Smart Alliance is from fertilizer industry. We have Monsanto in that, we have Yara in that, and Walmart is claiming they are the new green giant. So all these are happening in this green economy. And what happened in last maybe a decade or 2 decades is actually the existing giants or the actual market players claiming themselves as ecopreneurs, leaving no space for new ecopreneurs to innovate or find solutions to actual problems that faced by the environment, right? So what's happening is finding a new positional strategy for the existing businesses. So that's why I think we need to we need to define or redefine or reinvent what is ecopreneurship and how could we redefine it. So that's an important question. I just want to keep it open. We will discuss again towards the end what is ecopreneurship. So like in the coming slides, I will try to explain what I read in different sources. So one of the aspect is that to redefine ecopreneurship, it needs to begin with redefining the economies, redefining the economy, right? So currently we are sitting in a neoliberal capitalist economy. When we look at it, look at the environmental problems, we may feel that that's less important than the growth of the or economic growth, right? So that's why it's very important to redefine the economy. One of the Gibson Graham, one of the authors, in his book Take Back the Economy, is defining some 6 principles of redefining the economy or some concerns that should be addressed by any new economy. So he is carefully not using the term growth anywhere in this principles or in these concerns. He is clearly using surviving well. How do we survive well? How do we live healthy lives both mentally and physically? And after after our use, what is left over, how do we redistribute? How do we distribute the surplus? Now, what materials and energy do we use while we do this surviving well? And what do we consume? And what is our relationship with nature and other humans? And how do we care for our commons? Commons means any natural resources which are not mine, not yours, not governments, not markets. It's the duty and responsibility of everyone, like playgrounds, like lakes, rivers, paddy lands, open paddy lands. So any natural resources again is the capitalist terminology. So that's why we are calling it commons, right? So how do we care for our commons? More importantly, what's our future? How are you going to treat, how are you maintaining the planet sustainably? So these are some important questions to be answered by any economy. Other questions are not so important. These are the radical questions is what Gibson Graham is telling. So you may feel that again, these are very idealistic questions or idealistic concerns, and it's very impractical. So that's why I just want to tell some of the examples of alternative economic models or movements coined by people around the world. One is called community economy. So it's economy while we are telling there are two ends of the spectrum, like capitalist economy and socialist economy, right? So there is a spectrum in between that, right? And that's community economy is actually the major stakeholders are community around a problem, around an area, and it starts from the habitation in a current place. It's it starts from living together. So that's a community economy. So whatever these principles, this Graham Gibson is the major proponent of the community economy. These principles are embedded in community economy. Now, gift economy is another concept. We gift people goods and services without expecting any reward, immediate or future obligation to return the gift. It's another economic model, right? We cannot think of in a capitalist system about a gift economy. Everybody, whoever gives needs to get something. That's our idea, right? Again, it's not something new. If some of you are from North Kerala, you may be knowing something called Kuripayate. Everywhere in a village, when some marriage is happening, all the family around that household will give some amount to that household, not expecting that they will at that time, I'm not telling the current times, at that time, they are not expecting they will give it back or something like that. That's again, currently, the chitty funds are the originated from this concept of Kurippaite. So it's a community financing model. Like whoever, it's need based. Whoever needs will get the money, and it's not expecting immediate return, but balanced by circulation. After a lot of time, like when I have a need, I will also get. There is a trust among the community that's like sustaining this gift economy. We cannot imagine that happening in this society. I know, but just telling this were there. Now, food sovereignty. It's one concept put forward by Lavaya Campesina, like globally. Basically, the people have the right to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through ecologically sound and sustainable methods. And they have the right to define their own food and agriculture systems as well. So this is what food sovereignty means. So when we say food security, all of a sudden, all these large corporations will tell that we need more production. We need global free trade so that food security and food security is ensured, right? But Lavaya Campesina, it's a people's movement. Lavaya Campesina says, for food security, we need food sovereignty. The producers and the consumers should have their choice to choice to take what is appropriate, like healthy food and as well as culturally appropriate food. They should have that choice. Do we have that choice? We can like introspect. And there are many other models, or maybe under like models under development, or models that were existing earlier. So these are not like new economic models are not impractical to say. Just want to tell that. That's why I just gave these examples. Now, with this current system, now we are living in this society, in this economic system. What are some possibilities of ecopreneurship? Let's explore those, right? One is, yeah, again, what like many of the innovations currently happening are product innovations, right? Lot of product innovation, whether it's solar energy, whether it's electric vehicles, all are product innovations. I think what we really need as part of a business modeling approach for like climate action is institutional or process innovations, right? Solar panels are already there. Solar energy, that technology is already there. How we can decentralize those solar energy production to counter large giants like Adani taking over the like pasture lands, which is like another ecosystem, to calling it a wasteland and generating energy out of it. So we need institutional or process innovations. Again, now food sovereignty, like can we create local economies around food systems? Can we promote local food systems using some business model around it? And fair trade. Fair trade is not a new thing. There are a lot of fair trade organizations. So instead of free trade, can we vouch for fair trade? Now, instead of centralized model, can we vouch for decentralized models? Instead of global monopolization, can we go for local economy? Now, data democracy, everybody is a data company now, whether it's Facebook or any app that we are using in our mobiles, right? All are data companies. Can we give the users of the data the right to own that data, and like what we more ownership of the data, right? And knowledge commons, that's an emerging concept, right? There is not, it's not an emerging concept, it's been there, that concept. Like the knowledge that we all have is, it's a commons. It's not privately owned, public owned knowledge. It's the knowledge that we create, the knowledge that we transfer is there for all the society, all the people in our society and the future generations as well. That's the knowledge common concept. Sustainable consumption, right? So, and instead of like unhealthy and unsustainable consumption, can we vouch for business models around sustainable consumption? Ethical banking, work around cooperatives. There are many cooperatives we know. Can, like, rather than capital owned companies, instead of you don't need capital to start a company. Each of the people, like our Indian Coffee House, like our many other labor cooperative societies, right? They contribute their labor to start a business. instead of, they don't need to like contribute capital to start a business. Now, community finance, like Kuripite examples that I told, community land trusts. So these are some examples. You can add many. There are a lot of endless possibilities of ecopreneurship within this maybe capitalist economy, but tilting towards the goals that or economic reformation that we earlier told, or like buying the principles in that economies, or embedding those principles into our process and institutional innovations. Now, just to tell one example among this, fair trade organizations. This is a map of fair trade organization around the world, and these are some of the fair trade organizations. So that's something we all know that that's not something new. It's been there. Fair trade organizations are were there, and there is a fair trade organization or fair trade alliance Kerala that is there in South India. It's working in Western Ghats, North Kerala, and FTAK, along with 11 other producer cooperatives, they have their own like UK-based fair trade nut company, like called Liberation Foods. So they have 4,000. The Fair Trade Alliance Kerala has 4,500 members, small and marginal farmers, and yeah, they produce cashew nuts, coconut, and they export. And why it is called fair trade? They follow certain principles to be certified as a fair trade, which is like, that's called sustainable sourcing, or sustainable, or without any social discrimination, without damaging the environment. There is some fair trade certification for each of these farmers and each of these fair trade organizations. So a alliance among them, and then this is connected to a larger alliance that's already happening around the world. This is one example of a ecopreneurship model, maybe. Now, coming to the last leg of our discussion, and I'll try to finish it by 7:45, and then we can discuss all these points. So how do you solve complex environmental problems sustainably? So that's the now we have an idea, or one idea that I was talking about, that this can be an ecopreneurship model, or these can be the ecopreneurship models or examples, right? Now we have an environmental problem in hand. How do we solve that sustainably? So you may be a business entity, you may be an NGO, you may be another like government organization also. You may be any other entity trying to solve an environmental problem. Can business modeling help in that effort? That's the another leg of this discussion that we want to discuss. So what is a complex, what are some of the complex environmental problems, right? One of the problem that I can imagine is ecosystem degradation. So degraded agriculture lands, forest degradation, wetland conservation issues, right? Then biodiversity conservation. Now, sudden shift in land use patterns, again, it's part of, this is part of ecosystem degradation, exploitative production processes, and unhealthy consumption culture, natural calamities, lack of environmental education. These are some complex problems. If you look at these problems, right, seeing the magnitude of the problem and the complexity of the problem, we cannot tell any particular stakeholder to solve this problem. We cannot ask government, hey, there are like 37 million hectares of degraded agriculture land. Please restore it in next 5 years. Then only we will vote. We cannot do, like, it's not government's responsibility alone. Again, whether market will do it, no, it's never contributing to their profits or their motive of like shareholder wealth maximization. Then who should do it, right? Then there is a gap there. Then also I will let you like in the next slide. This slide we will discuss why we need business modeling for climate action. So for solving all these environmental problems, can we depend upon either government or market or community? The problem is that scale of the problem. One of the problem is the scale of the problem. I'm just telling an example here. One of the environmental like problem that I am focusing as part of my current project is like degraded agriculture lands. So in India, around 98 million hectares of degraded land is there, and out of 37 million hectares are degraded rainfed agricultural lands in the ownership of small and marginal farmers. The scale is that huge. Now, time frame of addressing the problem. To convert 1 hectare of a plot of degraded agricultural land. If you imagine, if you go to these places, you will see abandoned agricultural lands. The lands are of no use. You cannot do agriculture. They are saline, looks like a desert, that kind of agricultural lands. You need at least minimum of 5 years to transition that to a at least somewhat cultivable state. So there is a time frame involved in this problem. Now, lack of resources. These small and marginal farmers alone, or even government funds. If you pull in all the government funds available also, you cannot solve this problem in scale, right? Now, lack of access to market. Currently, even for a normal farmer who is doing agriculture very well, the access to market and a fair price is a dream, still a dream. Now, how can you imagine for a farmer with a degraded agriculture land, right? Now, again, most importantly, the point that we need is a motivation. The small and marginal, even after the restoration, how can we ensure that these efforts will be sustained? Or after restoration, like one of the major reasons is overuse of fertilizers and pesticides in the lands. So after the restoration, if the farmer is again going back to the like the usage of pesticides or synthetic fertilizers, again there is no use in this conversion. So we need some business modeling around it, because the farmer needs some incentive or motivation to restore and sustain this like restored lands, right? So that's why we need since the economy that we are in is a capitalist economy, the motivation or the incentive the farmer should be monetary. That's why in the current economic system, we need a business modeling approach to solve many of the complex environmental problems. So one another, like just to tell how this is different from a conventional business modeling. One point I can tell about that is multi-stakeholder approach. Unlike other business, like a private organization trying for its wealth maximization, a green business or an ecopreneur or a like entity trying to address a climate challenge should adopt a multi-stakeholder approach. I think you cannot do it alone. You need multiple players, multiple different players, including government, including private, including community, including NGOs. All of this multi-stakeholder approach should be taken. That's one part. Second, like I said earlier, there should be institutional modeling as the core item. Like other business modeling will have financial modeling as the major component, right? If your business is profitable, it's economically viable, or its net benefit is positive, then your business is good enough. That's the common idea. But in a like business modeling for climate action, the more focus should be on institutional modeling, that all the dependence of different entities within the network or within the institutional structure. And community should be at the center of the solution, whatever solution we are proposing. If it's a degraded agricultural land problem, farmers should be at the center. And if it's a restoration of forest lands, the community living in the forest should be at the center. Now, another peculiarity is there involves collaborations instead of competitions, right? Like there can be multiple people working in the same sector with the same idea, with the same objective. You are not competitors, you are collaborators. People are not enough to solve these problems with this magnitude and scale. So all the people working around the country and around the world are collaborators, not competitors. Now, monitoring mechanism and necessary regulation. That's very important, because we are dealing with this nature and the interconnectedness between the nature and the humans and other earth systems. So we should be considering that, and there should be stringent monitoring mechanism, necessary regulations, when even though we are telling about like inviting the private entities to do business modeling around natural resources. Now there should be service level benchmarks and safeguards, right? So when we say the service level benchmarks means there should be some like certain definitions. What should be what can be done, what cannot be done. The certain safeguards to avoid exploitation of the communities. Some structures or frameworks should be in place. Some committees should be in place, right? So these mechanisms should be part of the business modeling and embedding the model into existing policy framework. That's very much needed, because then only it can be scaled up to a state level or national level. Revenue sharing mechanism. Since there are we are adopting a multi-stakeholder approach. Lot of people involved here, right? We need to share the revenue equitably and in a fair manner. And multi-capital returns. We are not looking at monetary returns alone here. We should be looking at in a structure where even in our accounts book, there should be there is some concept called integrated triple bottom line, right? There is people, planet, and profit. All these should be embedded somehow in even in our reviewing of the business model, or even in our accounting statements, if possible. These are some like ways in which we could adopt business modeling, and these are some differences. It's very difficult and different from the conventional business modeling, right? In conventional business modeling, you just have to figure only things about economics of the business model, only things about the financial modeling part of it. But in a climate action, we need to figure all these components while we do business modeling. This is an example of a business model that we were proposing for restoration of lantana invaded landscapes. So there are multi-stakeholders here. There is a community involvement, decentralized community organization, removing lantana and like restoring the forest lands. Those are community organizations. Then there is a restoration company which like aggregates this lantana. Lantana is again, just for those who don't know, lantana is an invasive species which is invading in our forest landscape. And it's estimated that around 30 million hectares of our forest lands are invaded by this single species, which is impacting the biodiversity of the forest. So it's from every aspect, we need to restore this lantana invaded landscape so that native species will grow without any disturbance, right? So for that, the business model that we are proposing is, can we make energy out of lantana? So these energy production units will be owned and operated by the community with stringent monitoring by ecologists and governments and any other like multi-stakeholder committees. And using this revenue from this energy sale to the like nearby energy companies back to the restoration process. So that, and also the biochar is a byproduct of this energy production. Biochar is a charcoal which can be put it back to the soil for carbon sequestration. So here we are not just earning revenue, we are restoring the forest lands. We are replacing the fossil fuels in the nearby industries with a natural or biogas or like bioenergy. And we are increasing the earnings of like community members. So like, and carbon sequestration. A lot of aspects are coming into the picture. We are not just looking at the profit or net benefit of a company here. So this is one example just to tell, I'm not telling this is foolproof again. One example of a potential business model that can be, that in which we are trying to address a climate challenge. So I'm stopping here because we like it's already 7:45. We can discuss, and I think if more discussions or more discussions are needed, we can continue later also. But currently, I'm just opening the floor for any kinds of queries, any discussions that we would like to have.
Thank you, Syamkrishnan, for taking us through this amazing session on ecopreneurship. Now, participants, please put forth your questions and comments and make the session more fruitful.
Please let me know if I need to present the screen again, present the PPT also. I'll just present anyway.
Yeah, sure.
So let me just begin asking some questions. So this is again many of the points that I told are opinions only. So it needs further discussion. If there is any questions are there, I will answer that. Otherwise, I just want to tell, yeah. So how many of you agree that business modeling and climate action would go hand in hand? Or the concept of using business modeling for climate action is something that's not matching each other. There are problems around it. How many of you still think that way? Anyone?
May
Any point? Yeah, sure.
Okay, so see, I understand what you're trying to convey, but the basic problem still exists. That is, like, see, we are saying about climate smart agriculture, and you discussed about degraded reclamation of degraded agricultural land.
Correct.
But and also I from your talk I've understood that we don't need a top-down approach, but we need a bottoms-up approach where we empower the lower strata of people. For example, if it's the farmlands, it's the forest. I mean, it's the farmers, and then from there bottoms-up approach.
Correct.
But my question is, the current development model, as well as whatever climate smart, what ecopreneurship is there, money is the very factor for everything, right?
Yeah.
So how are we going to pull in money? Because even markets work on demand and demand supply basis. So my question is around that. How do we generate money?
Yeah, so very interesting question actually. Again, we have to, even though there are a lot of problems with our current economic model, we have to work within that model only, right? Currently, while we parallelly, while we discuss the other aspects of the other problems of the economic model, when we start a climate or when we start a ecopreneurship model, or maybe a new business model in this system, like we have to obey by the, I think, the current like what we can do. Again, your question is about the financing aspect. That's why the business modeling comes majorly into play. So here we are telling, we are like, while parallelly we are solving an economic or while solving a environmental problem, we are also having a, even in the perspective of a capitalist economy, this business is viable. We are what we are doing extra is what we have told here. So as an economic model, this model is both sustainable as well as economically viable also. So through the lens of the current market system, if it is viable, there are possible investments. When, like, only thing what we are trying to do is, let's have good business models around the world, so that the current push that we have for green investments are going to the actual sustainable business models only. So if it is economically viable, let the investors look for their revenue, look for their their returns, let them look at it. But those who are building the business model to solve the environmental problems, they should be looking at multiple aspects. They shouldn't be looking the financial problem alone. Now, how do you like bridge that gap when you are like competing with somebody like Adani, and who is having all this capital in hand? And when we are telling a business model of decentralized rooftop solar system, there actually lies the power of collectives and communities, I guess. That's one approach we could take. So there is one man or one entity who is trying to monopolize the entire renewable energy systems or entire food systems, the Monsanto or Walmart, entire, like, there is monopolization is happening on one side. Can we create business models around local economy, or maybe collectives, producer consumer collectives, a people like people staying in a apartment directly buying things from buying agriculture produce from a nearby farmers from a nearby village? There is no mediator. Like, there can be mediators, but I'm saying there is no monopoly, there is no agribusiness company in between. This is just one example I am telling. So can we make some small collectives as local economy? It involves lot of effort, but everybody, like from a community perspective or a consumer perspective, they need healthy food. They need access. They would love to buy directly from the farmers. Now, from the farmer perspective, they are getting money because they may get premium returns rather than whatever they are getting from the current agri business players in their collection centers and APMCs or anywhere they are selling their agri produce currently. They may get double their money or like the fair amount of price for the farmers in these producer consumer collectives. Next is fair trade. Like again, they are also getting revenue. They are selling their produce. Since it's a fair trade certificate, they are selling the produce with a premium price. Now they are using this premium price to certify their organic produce and to convert their land to like organic agriculture. So this way, like I'm saying, we could be using the extra revenue that we may get out of these business models to ensure that we have enough funding sustainably. Similarly, to compete with or to sideline or we may not be able to sideline or to stay in par with the capitalist players, we may have to use the power of collectives. That's what I'm thinking currently. If any of others have some point, please free to tell.
Syamkrishnan, it was rather a good presentation. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Even though you have mentioned somewhere in your talk about that NGO, you didn't much go for that microfinance aspect in this your project. Is it more convenient, more viable to go for a microfinance approach in this entrepreneurship or the new perspective business modeling? Because it is both a financial model as well as a marketing model as well as a production model. I don't mean the currently politically biased microfinance model, but the true original Dutch model. Why don't we try for that also, which is not incorporated, which I see which is not incorporated in your project report.
Yeah, I mean the community finance. I mean the community finance is maybe a refined version of microfinance model only. The current microfinance models are mostly, again, it's we know that a lot of private entities are owning up the space now. Whether it's we know, I'm not naming some, but many of the private players are owning up the space, and they are just they're creating financial products to link these poor farmers and the people at the margins to the market, the financial markets, with where the banks are not able to enter. That's what's happening in the microfinance sector, right? But if you have a community finance model where farmers are or even the community are equally trusting each other, like our old community finance model that we had in Kerala or in India, in different places around the world, right? Like I said, there is one concept called Kuripayattu. So that's a concept where that's community financing model is kind of a gift economy. We are giving the financing to the needy person rather than the based on some returns that we are expecting out of that financing. So that kind of modeling should come, there should be some innovations. So that works with a circular, we are the assumption is that when there are enough transactions in a community finance or even this kind of model where we are not expecting any immediate returns, everybody will be beneficial. So I'm not telling it's a existing business model or it's viable in this society, but we could work around that. There should be some. The current microfinance model in its form is not socially I mean it's discriminating in some nature. So we need to some refinement to that is what I'm thinking, or going back to some old models.
Yeah, I meant that old one, that is original Dutch one. That is it, not the current politically biased one.
Correct,
or a politically owned one. I should say politically owned one. It is something new. Why don't you go for that perspective, and why don't you promote the settings that is originality? How it
Yeah.
originated, microfinance originated.
Correct. The Muhammad Yunus Grameen
Yeah,
Bank
yeah,
model and
that's it,
all are
that's it.
correct. Those
That's
are real examples. Yeah. Anyone else? Just curious to know if any of the ecopreneurs are there in the call, those who are already running some, because I'm no one to tell more about this than them. So they like, we could tell this theory is sitting in this discussion. They only know the actual problems while doing it. I know I have talked to many, I was an entrepreneur before also. So it's very easy to say we should be covering all these aspects as well when we parallelly do the like financial aspect. So yeah, so I mean, they could tell the difficulties in this. There is a question, I think, like you rightly mentioned, there should be a government partnership to make such a model work out. Is there any concrete approach to make collaboration with government viable? Because educating the public, small scale business model on matters other than economic part is much of a trying. Yeah. So again, that's why I told there should be a piece while we imagine this business model that embedding into existing policy frameworks or influencing at the policy level. So when like when we talk about social entrepreneurship itself, the model that we have in mind is the Amul model, right? So at that time when a private monopoly was handling the milk supply chain, there was a model, there was a policy framework that emerged out of a pilot project in Anand. That's called Operation Flood. Now we have cooperative societies around the country to compete with the private milk players, right? So that's again, that's now the state of that we all know. But at this current situation, whatever be the business model that you have, you like if you are if it is economically viable, socially equitable, and environmentally sustainable, it should be, we should be able to pitch to the government mechanisms so that it's easily scaled up. Otherwise, yeah, it's clearly whatever you are telling is correct. I think government partnership is very much important, but before that we should be having a business model in hand. I think a business model, because otherwise nobody will have interest. Even the community player, even the farmer, those who are for whom we are trying out this business model, he will not have any interest. So that's why the business model is the key. Then we could approach to the government, I think. So otherwise, if we approach to the government, it's all depends upon government's availability of funds, their priorities, all those things. So can we, when we imagine a like solution to a problem, can we assume that there is no funds available? That's what I'm thinking. Let it be, let there be funds available. For example, we can make use of Narega schemes, the MG Narega schemes for some of the aspects of the solution, some other government scheme for some other aspects of the solutioning. But can we for a moment imagine that there are no funds available from the government? And can we solve the problem sustainably without anyone's money? Maybe some initial investment, it may recover, and like whoever is putting, maybe a farmer can put some amount of money, and other stakeholders, the private players can, market can put money. Not only money, when we imagine this business model, not only the capital, that's what I was telling from the beginning, every contribution should be counted. Those who are labor contribution should be counted. Those who are putting their like any other kinds of contributions, like if that's why when we say environment is contributing something to the business model, that should be counted as a contribution. There should be definite, if we are seeing that way, if we are tweaking the like business model in that larger concept, we could make the business model works for the like problem solving in climate action, I think. I think please let me know if any other doubts are there, or I mean reach out to me. We could I think what is missing, most of you might have expected that we will be discussing some actual ecopreneurship models that's existing. We could do that's around, that's there available in the internet. That's why I didn't bring it, but we could definitely have that kind of discussion also. Also another thing we could have a discussion is actually if we have some problems, we can actually do a workshop around it. It's like trying to pick some 5 environmental problems and have a brainstorming discussion on how do we solve that problem on a in a business modeling way. We could have that kind of discussion as well. I just gave an introduction or basics of what shouldn't be an ecopreneurship model and what can be a like business modeling approach for climate action. Thank you, and please reach out to me if any other doubt is there later also. That's it. Thank you. Anything else is there? Kavya, Agnes, can we conclude?
Yeah, sure. So thanking you once again, Syam, and also thank you participants for being active. So we are concluding this episode now, and we'll be back soon with another episode of Change Conversations. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Syam.
Hi, thank you.